is hungry. This team isn't done. This team is not going to be denied.
Energy all day! Energy all day!
Nick Bolton makes the hit. It's intercepted by Brian Cook. It's Mahomes gunning it long. Cook!
The Chiefs fell just short of their ultimate goal last year, but every moment since that tough night last February has been about getting back to the mountaintop. And more than 200 days later, that journey is finally set to begin 6,000 miles south of Kansas City in beautiful São Paulo, Brazil. We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all year for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, when your broadcasting career began, you ever think you'd be calling a game in Arena Corinthians in Sao Paulo, Brazil?
In a word, no. Wow, what a trip down here. But beautiful stadium, and there's a lot of red in this stadium, so it is exciting. And this game has more of a feeling of something more than just an international game, because it's a division game, first game of the year. It almost has kind of a little bit of Super Bowl feeling to it.
This atmosphere is incredible. We've been feeling it really ever since we landed. There were like hundreds of Chiefs fans at the airport when we got here a couple days ago. There was a great event in downtown Sao Paulo last night, like maybe 1,000 Chiefs fans. It was amazing. And they're all Brazilian, and they love the Chiefs. It's awesome. And you know, this is technically a home game for the Chargers in terms of the schedule, but there's a lot of red in the stands here tonight. I have a feeling the crowd's on our side.
Yeah, and if it's any indication, they're about 3 rows deep all the way around the stadium except for the end zones. The other thing is, and in my open, I'll talk about there's a beauty in the beginnings. When you think of something great beginning, there's a beauty in it. But Americans adore football, and it's both North and South America. I think we've counted 27 jerseys out of the 32.
Yeah.
But this is also a celebration of the league by Brazil, and was last year, and I think even more so this year.
Yeah, it's very cool to share it with all these people that are starved for American football. It is difficult getting here, though. Like I mentioned, we are 6,000 miles away from home. Now, the good news is there's only a 2-hour time difference. We're only 2 hours ahead of everyone in Kansas City, so not much acclimation required, but it's a long way. It was an 11-hour flight from Kansas City, and that's difficult on everyone's bodies, right? But relatively speaking, it's a testament to Coach Reed and our entire operations staff that overall this has been pretty seamless for the players.
And don't even think about making any kind of an excuse, or he will look you down, right? And in his own way will melt you like butter in a microwave. But let's be honest, the 2.5 wait on the tarmac in Kansas City before a 10.5-hour flight, losing 2 hours, going through customs, and what, about an hour ride to the Sao Paulo is the 4th largest city in the
enormous.
world.
It just keeps going. It's huge.
I mean, it tells Chicago, hold my drink here, right? Because it's gigantic, and so it's not just like a breeze across town. But all that being said, you got to play this game. You know, one thing though that helps, because it was an hour and a half, even with the police escort from our hotel here, because the city's so vast. But this feeling tonight is energizing.
Yeah.
This is a cool, meaning a cool weather evening. This feels like mid-October on a football Friday night, which for all these guys playing, our guys, and probably the Chargers, it brings back this Friday night feeling that they've got. And there's really nothing like it. So I think with all of the barriers that have been put in place to be focused or win this game or play your best, I think it's somewhat mitigated by the conditions that I think are perfect.
We also have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. When the ball is kicked off tonight, this will become the 4th country outside of the United States where the Chiefs will have played a regular season game. Most of any team in NFL history. So the Chiefs played, of course, in London in 2015, Mexico City in 2019, and Frankfurt, Germany in 2023. What do all 3 of those games have in common? We won all 3, and that doesn't happen by accident.
What else do they have in common? I'm going to give you the spoiler alert on my open to the radio.
Let's hear it.
And that is, they all began something. I said there's beauty in beginnings. In 15, it was part of a 10-game winning streak when we won in London that led us to our first postseason win in 21 years. London really catapulted that. Oh, let's move ahead to Mexico City. Winning that game over these Chargers in Mexico City, we never lost again. Super Bowl 54, 50 years since that had happened. And then in 2023, it got a little clunky in December, but winning in Frankfurt, Germany was really a bit of a springboard that led to a Super Bowl 58 championship, and the first time in 20 years that a team had won back-to-back Super Bowls. Every one of those international games, Matt, turned into something greater. And that's my beauty in beginnings, and who knows what this could lead to tonight.
And you know, if we win tonight, we'll actually match the Minnesota Vikings for the most international wins without a loss in NFL history. We'd also kick off our campaign to hopefully win a 10th straight AFC West title the right way. And it's kind of interesting. This is the first time we'll open up the year against a divisional opponent since 2018. That was Patrick Mahomes' second ever start. It was also a sign of things to come, because in the time since, Patrick is a ridiculous 35-5 against divisional opponents. That's the highest winning percentage for any quarterback against their own division in NFL history. Let's keep that going here tonight.
And who was that 2018 game against? In the soccer stadium, in the Chargers, and Pat lit him up. Now, Pat, also to take that step further, he's 19-4 in September. Only Roger Staubach in NFL history has a better September record than Pat Mahomes. And then you look, a 6-1 in opening games. The only loss was to the Lions to start the 23 season. Otherwise, he's 6-1 in opening games, week one opening games. So when you look at that, Pat prepares, Pat attacks, and he's going to do that for this game.
Well, you said prepares. That's what's overlooked, is the preparation. The Chiefs don't just show up and win all these games and all these division titles. It goes back to preparation. And one of my favorite things to talk about are the division rival OTA practices. So the Chiefs actually game plan for their division rivals during OTAs in the spring. So they're essentially game planning for games like this months before the season actually starts. It's always beneficial, but I think when you play a division rival in week one, it's particularly beneficial.
I saw it the first year Coach was here in 2013. In that offseason, I go, wow, this is crazy. But think about how he dominated the NFC East when he was the Eagles coach in a division very similar to ours, so competitive. But he will have an OTA, as you mentioned, but he'll also have a day in camp. He'll have a day in camp dedicated to each division opponent, and he'll hearken back to that when he plays or prepares for the division opponent in the week of that game. So this isn't just getting ready for these guys right after the preseason. It was getting ready for these guys and the other two teams in the division, to your point, as far back as May. Not all the guys know it. Not all the guys know it's Charger Day. In fact, they kind of leave it, but Pat knows. And so the fact that he and Coach are on the same page, but Coach will use it as hearkening back. Remember on May the 10th or June the 4th, it was Charger Day. Here's why we did that. Here's what they do. Here's what we'll do.
Well, let's talk about the Chargers a little bit, and really any conversation about these guys has to begin with their defense. This was the #1 scoring defense in the NFL last year. What stands out to you about this Charger defense?
I think that, and I think it's overall with this team, I think Jim Harbaugh is trying to make the Chargers into the Ravens of the AFC West. And Jim and John are very different. They're brothers, but they're very different, but they have the same football philosophy. So what I think that what Jim did, to answer you about defense, is try to get more physical up front, try to be more impactful. If you look at what they did in the draft and what they did in free agency, they have, I think, one of the emerging edge rushers in Tuli Tuipulotu, whose brother plays for us, and he'll be active tonight, actually. But we know they still have Khalil Mack. But Derwin James. So they've got the kind of guy in the middle, guy up front, and guy in the back, like a baseball team. It's a good defense, really good. They were awesome in the red zone last year. Nearly impossible to score on in the red zone. That'll be a key tonight for the Chiefs if they get inside the 20 to get 7s and not 3s.
Yeah, they were super impressive, like across the board defensively last year. You mentioned the red zone defense, best red zone defense in the NFL. Also really good on third down. They were 5th in the NFL. You know, one area they struggled, though, was allowing big plays. Yeah. They allowed the 12th most plays of 20 or more yards in the NFL last year. And that's interesting because the mantra for the Chiefs offense all offseason long was about getting back to the explosive plays, because we didn't see a lot of it last year, obviously. We want to get back to the early days of Patrick Mahomes a little bit, hopefully, and we saw some of it in the preseason. Hopefully we see some more of it here tonight.
Yeah, and people, I think, have got to understand that they think that's Jet Chip Wasp.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Not always.
If you think of one of the most explosive games in Andy Reid's history as the Chiefs, wasn't Patrick Mahomes, it was Alex Smith in an opening game against the Patriots. And those were on circle routes to Kareem Hunt. There was a seam to Kareem Hunt that a 10-yard throw becomes a 70-yard touchdown. I think that this 25 Chiefs team has a propensity to do that. Yes, it's chucking it down the field to hit the third level, but it's also a circle route, an angle route, a tight end rub that turns into a 25 or 30-yard gain. Last year, the Chiefs didn't have that. And then to be more explosive in the run game, Matt, last year the Chiefs only had 3 runs of 30 to 39 yards, and 2 of those were Mahomes scrambles. Only 4, 20 to 29. And 2 of those were end arounds by Xavier Worthy and a jet sweep by McCole Hardman, who's no longer here. So Pacheco's got it back. He can pop a run, no pun intended. And with Rashard Smith, he gives you a chance to get a big play when it's not necessarily designed to be a big play.
Yeah, the Chiefs were 27th in the NFL in explosive plays last year. Very un-Chief-like. So any way we can get it, we'll take it here tonight. It all starts up front, though. You got to protect with your offensive line. And I think maybe besides Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the player everyone's so excited to watch tonight is left tackle Josh Simmons. What are your expectations for Simmons tonight?
I would have lost a bet of $100 because I never would have said he would be the day one left tackle starter in OTAs.
During our draft show, I don't think we saw this coming.
In OTAs, he was number 1 and stayed number 1 all the way through camp. He had a great training camp, not a good training camp, a great training camp. Now he's got to work in concert with Kingsley Suama'atia on the left side because you know the Chargers are going to attack them. Twists, stunts, delayed. They love delayed blitzes. They also love matchups on the back end where it looks like zone. They turn it into man like a matchup zone in basketball. Rick Minter does a really good job with their defense. But you asked me about Simmons. I think he's a star in the making. This is going to be huge for him tonight, but he's athletic, and the Chiefs can use him on one-man screens. I went nuts when I saw it at camp when he just kicked out and went out and got the corner like it was a tight end, and then the receiver was able to cut off his block. I think it's exciting to have him out here, and really curious to see what he'll do.
And he's 22 years old, so let's give him some breathing room and some leeway. But he has a very bright future, obviously, and hopefully a great start here tonight.
And to your point, these guys, the Chargers, hit Pat Mahomes last year 11 times in the first half. 11 times, like an NFL record. And so that was a different offensive line, but these guys are aggressive, and they hit Pat, and they hit him a lot. And I still remember the Derwin James blitz that Samaje Perine picked up.
Yeah, you love that play.
Because he was going to kill Pat, and he got ear-holed by Perine. So who, other than Simmons, can help block Pat to give him a chance to throw?
Let's talk about the Chargers offense a little bit. Of course, begin quarterback Justin Herbert. What a year for him last season. Only threw 3 interceptions, fewest of any qualified passer. But for these guys, it really comes down to 2 things. It's running the football and it's play-action passing.
Yep, and they've got it. Again, this goes back to this offseason for the Chargers was to make it more Ravens-like. They didn't turn their jerseys to purple, but they might as well.
Just about.
So they go get Najee Harris. 4 straight 1,000-yard rushing years with the Steelers. Then they go draft Amarian Hampton, who is right behind Ashton Genty on the boards of power backs in the draft. So that just tells you they want to run it, jam it at you, beat you up, hit you in the nose, and then play-action pass again. You've got the stats. Last year, they were the second-best play-action team. But they were incredible last year, but a 76% completion percentage on play-action passing. If they get both of that going, then they're really hard to stop, especially Ladd McConkey.
Well, have we mentioned Greg Roman yet? Because Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator for the Chargers. We talked about those 49er teams with Jim Harbaugh. Well, Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. We talk about the Ravens. Well, Roman was the offensive coordinator in the early years of Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens. And all 3 of those teams have in common the fact that they want to run the ball and use play action. That's what the Chargers want to do. So you got to stop the run. The good news for the Chiefs, looking at last year defensively, they were awesome against opposing running backs all year long, including against these Chargers. The Chargers, as good as they were running the football last year, didn't top 100 rushing yards in either game against the Chiefs. Looking at our defense specifically, who's a player or 2 that you're watching tonight?
I'm going to give you some surprising ones.
Okay.
Now, The inside has got to be tough. So Derek Notty's back. He's got to be a two-gap run stopper. We'll rotate everybody in there. But I think a key to tonight, and I think a key to the season, is Leo Chanel.
Yeah.
Because Leo Chanel can be good against the run. He's excellent at holding the edge. He's also can even play inside some. Not that he's going to make a living in there. He can also be a stand-up linebacker when the Chiefs are in base. I think Chanel's on the verge of having a breakout season. But it will be mix and matching by Spags. We brought this up all last year, and I hated that Week 18 game against the Broncos because it really convoluted the stats.
Yeah.
But if we're going to talk about the Chargers being one of the top defenses, and they were in 2024, so were the Chiefs. I mean, 20 points or less in 12 of the 17 games. That's the Chiefs. So I don't see anything less, but they are going to have to handle the run game, and that means Derek Notty's got to hold up. Jerry Tillery, former Chargers, got to hold up. And Chris Jones, I hope Superman stays in his body because he could wreck this game.
I don't understand it, but the Chiefs defense just never gets the credit it deserves. We talked about the Chargers defense, like you mentioned. Well, since the beginning of the 2023 season, so over the last 2 regular seasons, the Chiefs own the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. Number 1, not number 2, not number 3, number 1 scoring defense in the NFL. Hopefully another great start to the year defensively for the Chiefs here tonight. And for more on our defense, I caught up with one of our favorite people, and Ari Wolf from the preseason broadcast a few days ago. All right, we're joined now by one of my favorite people. It's Ari Wolf, of course, from the Chiefs preseason broadcast. He's working overtime here today to help us out with Chiefs and Chargers. Ari, what's going on?
Feeling great. I mean, it's week 1 and a game in Brazil against a division opponent. I mean, this is just so exciting. And we've been together now for the last 5 weeks talking Chiefs. It's just exciting that the real stuff starts tonight.
And of course, on an international stage and facing a divisional opponent here in the Chargers. And I want to ask you specifically about the Chiefs defense facing this Chargers offense. First question is a basic one. When you look at this Chiefs defense and think about your meetings with the guys during the preseason and watching the games, what stands out to you about this Chiefs defense?
Well, the depth at all 3 levels of the defense. I think that there is star power, but there's also depth. And the best thing we've got going for the Chiefs is Steve Spagnuolo as the defensive coordinator. What he's great at doing is taking a whole bunch of sets of ingredients, putting them together, and making a perfect meal. So here's why I'm so bullish on the Chiefs defense. I'm going to make a case why in the 3 different areas, the defensive line up front, the linebackers, or the secondary could end up being the strength of the Chiefs defense in 2025. Let's start up front. Chris Jones is capable of having a monster year. It wouldn't shock any of us if he's the defensive player of the year, right? And I think based on my conversations with him, he now realizes he's at least starting the back 9 of his career. There's a different mentality, a different way that I feel like Chris is looking at this season and the rest of his career. I'm expecting a monster year from him. You've got George Karlaftis, who's just been Mr. Consistency, bringing effort. He's a guy who can get to the quarterback, love his work ethic. But to me, the wrinkle here is Ashton Gelati. This guy really stood out during camp. I mean, he just made eye-popping play after eye-popping play. In the preseason, one play, he took on multiple blockers, completely blew up the play. Spags has talked about his lower body strength. If this guy has a chance to come in and be an elite player and contribute regularly, the defensive line may be the best part of the defense. Not so fast. That's the honor of our man Lee Court. So let's go to the linebackers. All right, the starting 3, you got Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton, and Leo Chanel. That's as good a linebacking core as you could ever hope for. Now, we know about Drew Tranquill. He's so smart. He can play all the positions. Bolton is just a guy who makes tackles in space, has a sense for the football. But it's Leo Chanel, the beast, who I'm most excited about. This guy's an ascending talent. Remember, when he came out of Wisconsin, he was a guy expected to mainly play against the run. He's an every down linebacker now with a chance to make huge plays. And that blocked field goal last year saved a victory for the Chiefs. Huge fan of Leo Chanel. Now let's go to the back end. You've got McDuffie back there, who we all agree is one of the top corners in the league. And don't sleep on Jalen Watson. He's been pretty consistent back there. I love his length. And then when we get into the safety position, I think there's a lot to like. Jaden Hicks, I'm not sure whether he'll actually start on the opening play. It depends what kind of defense they're in between him, Chamari Corner, and Brian Cook. Look, I'm bullish on all 3. If I had to choose one set of the defensive front, the linebackers, the DBs, that are the strength of the defense, I would choose the linebackers, but I think you can make a case for all 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an exciting group, and we don't get enough credit here, I think, the Chiefs defense for how good it's been over the last couple of years. I've been beating this drum for years now, that since 2023, this is the #1 scoring defense in the NFL. Nobody talks about it. I don't really get it, but this defense has been so good over the last several years. Big test here. And the Chargers, though, you live in LA, so this is perfect. You're the perfect guy to ask about this. Based on what you know about the Chargers and what they want to do offensively, what are you expecting from the Chiefs defense here in this one if they're to slow the Chargers down?
Well, let's just say the Chiefs play to expectation that they did a year ago. If they limit the Chargers to 19 points, I think the Chiefs win the game running away because I think the Chiefs offense is going to be better. They're definitely going to take their shots down the field. But I look at this Chargers offense. They're relieved. Najee Harris will be a go. He's been dealing with the eye injury. He's an important part because they want to run the football and they want to use play action. And when they go to play action, they'll sometimes go 7-step. They'll get Herbert way back there. Ladd McConkey is the guy you need to be most concerned about. He is a wide receiver that has a combination of skills that got him as a rookie over 1,000 yards last year. He is the central, I think, target for the defense. If you can take McConkey out of the game, none of their other receivers scare you. Now, look, if this was Keenan Allen from a few years ago, I might feel different, but, he's lost a step. So when you look at this team for the Chargers, they're going to want to run the football. They're going to want to take time off the clock. They're going to want to play a low-scoring game. So I think it's important that you limit Justin Herbert. Now, come on. Everyone loves Justin Herbert, right? He's always in the top 5 when they talk about the great quarterbacks in the league. But is he really? He hasn't won a playoff game yet. His last game he played against the Houston Texans, he threw 4 interceptions. So this is a team that went limping into the offseason. I'm curious to see what this revamped offense looks like, but the loss of Rashawn Slater as one of their outstanding tackles, I think, hurts them a lot. Joe Alt and the offensive line, they are going to have to exceed expectation. Najee Harris is going to have to run the ball effectively, and someone else other than Ladd McConkey is going to need to step up. I love the Chiefs' defense against this Chargers offense tonight.
You're firing me up, Ari. We're about to get on a 11-hour flight here, and you're getting me excited for this one. Awesome way to start the season, doing this in Brazil on the international stage. Who else would you want to play than a divisional opponent to kick off the 2025 season? Ari, you're the best. We'll see you some more this year. Sound good?
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a safe trip, Matt.
All right, great stuff there from Ari Wolf. We're still waiting on the inactives. We're kind of at the mercy of our cell service as well. Hopefully we get the text with the inactives, but it should be any minute. We do know a few things, though. He's not going to show up in the inactives report, but Jalen Royals is not going to play here tonight. I guess he will be on the inactives report. He didn't make the trip down here, but he's not going to play here tonight with that knee tendonitis. Hopefully we get Jalen back next week, but no Jalen here tonight.
No, and Omar Norman Lott, too, has had that problematic ankle, calf.
And he's questionable coming in. We'll find out for sure here in a minute.
I don't think he's going to play. I don't want to. I doubt if he's going to play. And I look for Marlon Tuipulotu to be elevated. The only reason I say that is his brother plays for the Chargers, so that's kind of fun. It's always fun. But yeah, Jalen Royals being out, that's that tendonitis in his knee. There's no hurrying that. So hopefully he'll be there for the Eagles.
Who are you looking for to step up in the receiver core with obviously no Rasheed and no Jalen Royals here tonight?
Well, we're blessed because at that door hinge receiver role, I call it the door hinge, Juju Smith-Schuster has turned into that in his career. He was great last year. And so I love Jalen Royals. I love his blitz reads. Like he's way ahead of his life as far as reading blitz, but Juju can do it too. So I have every bit of confidence in Juju Smith-Schuster filling the role of whatever Royals was going to do.
Juju had an awesome camp. Like, he was energized throughout camp. And I had a chance to ask him a while ago about the benefit of being with us the entire offseason. Because, he joined us like a day before the season last year. And everyone says, well, he was on the team, 2 years ago, so therefore he'll be fine. It's hard when you're not on the team the entire offseason and throughout training camp. And that was an adjustment for him, I think, last year. He said this year he feels just awesome because he was with the team throughout the spring, throughout the summer. I think he's in store for a big year.
And I'm going to give him a giant compliment. This is like an NBA player turning into the guy that gets 15 shots a game to a guy that gets 5. But he's going to create somebody else to get 10 more shots. and of the 5 he takes, he'll hit 3 of those.
Yeah.
That's what Juju Smith-Schuster has become. And that role and this offense for Coach Reed is incredibly valuable.
Still waiting on the inactives. We'll see if we can get them at some point. Some more things that we already know, though, with the Chargers. Najee Harris is going to play. Now, kind of an interesting thing all offseason with him. He hurt his eye with a firework on July 4th and really didn't practice a whole lot in camp because of that. He returned to a full participant in practice this week, and it sounds like he's going to play. We don't know how much he's going to play, but Najee Harris and his effectiveness will be something to watch tonight.
Yeah, the only guy in the league that's had 4 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He did it with the Steelers. I really look for Hampton to be the main guy, but man, what a compliment. What a compliment Najee Harris is when they tag team in and out, and they're both big backs. You're looking at 200 plus. These aren't 205 lighter guys. These are heavy guys coming at you. And that's kind of their deal. They want to kind of wear you down with 2 backs. It's the Ravens' way, right? And so it's Gus the Bus along with, King Henry. But that's what the Chargers want to be with those 2 guys.
Yeah, they're going to be missing Rashawn Slater. Tore his patellar tendon during training camp. He's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. That is a huge, huge loss. We haven't really talked about that yet because it causes a whole ripple effect on their offensive line. Joe Alt goes from right tackle to left tackle now. And Trey Pipkins, who has played before but is a reserve on their offensive line, is now their starting right tackle. And one thing that we're waiting for with the inactive is one of their starting guards, a very good player, and Mekhi Becton, is sick. He was added to the injury report today. He's questionable due to an illness. So either he'll not play, and that's a big deal, or he's kind of battling something right now. We'll see what happens with that.
Becton's part of the whole let's make the Chargers the Ravens because he's huge as a guard. He's a big dude. Played against the Chiefs in Super Bowl 59 as an Eagle right guard. He was with Philadelphia, part of that good offensive line. Now he's here with the Chargers. I don't think they're going to miss a beat with Joe Alt. He had 35 starts at Notre Dame at left tackle. His dad was our player in our Ring of Honor at left tackle. Where I do think it affects this game is Trey Pipkins III at right tackle. He's given up 4 sacks and 4 false starts. Had 4 false starts in 12 games against us. So it's not just moving Alt, it's moving Alt out of where Alt was. And I think that could be an issue. I look for the Chiefs' defensive line. If they show tonight what they showed us in camp, Matt, they can be very disruptive and wreck the line of scrimmage, but it's stopping the run. Here come the Chargers. They'll double one side. They'll wall off the backside and try to get 5, 6, 7 and try to wear you down. If the Chiefs can win that battle early like they usually do, I think they can wreak havoc at the line of scrimmage.
We just got the inactives. So let's take a look at this, Mitch. I don't think there's any major surprises here. So it looks like Becton is active and going to play. We'll see how effective he can be battling that illness. It's never good if you're added to the injury report with an illness like 5 hours before kickoff, but he's going to give it a go, it looks like. For the Chiefs, you were correct. Omar Norman-Lott not going to play here tonight. Obviously, Jalen Royals not going to play. Jared Wiley inactive here tonight. We were wondering about that one. But the big ones for the Chiefs, Omar Norman-Lott, Jalen Royals not going to play. Not a huge surprise. And for the Chargers, looks like Mekhi Becton is going to give it a go. We'll see how effective he can be.
The other thing is, if you want to be football nerd here, we have seen so many teams over the past year and a half, and I think the Chargers will do it tonight. We saw it some last year, play 6 offensive linemen. They'll play a lineman as a tight end. Now, because of their injuries on the offensive line and maybe Becton being sick, that could lessen that. And that's because it's something, if you listen to us on the radio, you can watch it on YouTube, sync it up. Well, we will focus on that if the Chargers have a 6th offensive lineman. But again, their injuries on the offensive line could affect that approach.
Either way, this Chargers team is tough, though. They take on the identity of their head coach. It's always a great game when the Chiefs and Chargers get together. And what an awesome way to kick off the year here on the international stage. And with that in mind, we're going to leave you with a Portuguese rendition of Red Kingdom by Brazilian pop star Luísa Sonza. You can find that anywhere you get your music. Let's take care of business tonight, everybody. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Let's go get a victory.
Kansas City. You ready?
Welcome to the Red Kingdom. Red Kingdom. Red Kingdom. Red sempre o maior. E quando eles chegam, o campo todo treme com a força do 5-8. O adversário vira meme de camisa vermelha, o tamanho do problema.